My name is David Middleton. I am the co-owner of Bewilder Box and co-organizer of Eric over in the UK. And today,
awesome man.
Thank you very much. Okay. Today, I'm going to be interviewing and chatting to Sera Dodd, who is a human doctor, an escape room doctor and designer, UK representative in the Red Bull Mind Games, and also co-organizer of the Eric Escape Room Conference in the UK. But she is also, of course, a very proficient escape room player, aren't you? You've done a few. Got a few.
Yeah, couple.
And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. That's the perspective. The thing which we're going to be exploring is Sera Dodd, escape room player. So I suppose we should kick things off with the very beginning. A very good place to start.
The origin story.
When was it you actually started playing escape room games? When was do you remember the first one?
I do, vividly. It was Enigma, vividly, and yet I've forgotten the name of the company. Enigma Escapes, I believe, in London, which is where I live. It was a birthday treat to myself. Much like most escape rooms became after that. A treat to myself with other participation from other people forced upon them by me. It was, I think I like to do something spontaneous on my birthday, and I'd kickstarted the Crystal Maze, which people from America might not have heard of, although I think it's become more popularised now, particularly amongst escape room enthusiasts. But I'd kickstarted it and taken 31 friends and family to the Dome, and it was great fun. And I've always liked that kind of thing, Nightmare with K, and Crystal Maze growing up, my era. Any kind of interactive form of game with a puzzle element, I was a big gamer. So it was a dream come true. It was great fun. We actually ran around the Dome twice, which was excessive. So that really laid the scene there, excessive gaming. And someone said to me, "Oh, have you played an escape room? Have you played Time Run in London?" I said, "Oh, well, what's a Time Run?" And he said, "I think it's really up your street. It's an escape room, and you interact with characters and kind of, solve challenges." And I thought, that sounds horrific. I don't really like interacting with people as much as I put on up front. It doesn't come naturally to me. So I kind of discarded that idea and thought, this isn't really for me. And then on my birthday, we normally did something exciting, spontaneous. So treasure hunts around London or a scavenger hunting. So I said to Sharan, have you organised anything particular for my birthday? Obviously, she always organises presents and, a nice meal and things. And the rule is, if it's your birthday, you can do whatever you want. So she said no, and I said, okay. And I spent the evening Googling and found an escape room. And I should caveat it with the fact that I'm horribly claustrophobic. So I don't use lifts, elevators at all. I walk up the stairs, including when I used to work on the 12th floor at a hospital in London. I used to walk up and down every day, which was tiring, sometimes 8 or 9 times if you carry.
Gives you a rock hard butt though.
Just solid. It's gone now. And really quite claustrophobic. I don't like aeroplanes for a similar reason, though I don't much like heights either. And so the idea of escape room didn't sound great, and I was a bit panic-stricken, but as I say, the excitement of birthday allowed me to overcome this. I also hate horror things. So the first escape room that we played was a quite compact, small, caged-in escape room with a horror element. So no idea why I continued on after this point.
I swear every single time I mention you in a conversation and I say what the number is, the next time I talk to you, it's usually there's usually a few hundred or something.
Punt those numbers.
What is the current number at the moment? How many escape room experiences or what you'd qualify as?
Well, exactly.
You count.
Well, so I think we're on about 1,780. There's definitely an argument that will be had amongst the escape room enthusiasts who like a good argument about nomenclature and whether or not virtual escape games count, and if so, which ones do and which ones don't. So I haven't counted any digital ones, but I would perhaps count avatar-led ones if I have seen the entire room and done every puzzle that would normally be there.
And on the avatar ones, because that's kind of the hot topic at the moment, how many?
The virtual ones.
Virtual ones, yeah. How many virtual?
Oh, yeah. We slowed down. We've played almost none in the past month because the team, we're all working full time. We're very lucky. I know lots of people in the escape room industry have had to pause work, and that's really tough. But because we have different jobs outside the industry, we've all been working full time, and it's been a bit busy. So we've slowed down. We've done about 80. I think there's a few people that are well into their 120s, but they've been really, and I felt like we'd got a good scope and idea of what was out there and what was available. Some of the reasons I like to do these things are to, play and experience a breadth of adventures. And when you start to feel they become a bit samey, the rush to book another one is not as strong.
So there must be quite a lot of variation from those games in terms of the format, and I suppose in terms of the quality as well, possibly.
Yeah, diplomatically, huge variation. But I think it's been interesting to see where most people in the escape room industry, because it was not an industry very long ago, have got a background or a skill set in some other place. And it's been interesting to see who relies on those skill sets, and depending on where those skill sets lay, what kind of rooms or games or digital experiences they've opened. And I think it would be really fascinating to see how that then transcends back into the classical escape room world that we know.
The escape room industry is as a whole a very creative industry. So if you're backed into a corner and you've got to somehow find something that works, to keep that business going, to keep things ticking over, to keep giving yourself presence, people will come up with some weird and wonderful stuff.
Yeah, and they have.
And I agree. It's it's petrol on the fire. It will be interesting to see. Obviously, what's happened has been a terrible thing. With regards to just purely from a creative point of view in the industry, it will be very interesting to see what happens with this branch. What will come next, and how will that impact it?
I remember when I first started playing virtual games, there was very much this attitude that the moment our physical games are open, all these avatar games are shutting down. We're not doing any more online stuff. This is not where we want to be. And it's amazing how many reopened their virtual rooms, partly because the capacity that they were expecting hasn't come to fruition. And so it's financially viable for them, particularly as it's brought in players from around the world. So, if you're normally in America and quiet on a Monday to Thursday at midday, well, great, that's my evening, and it works kind of perfectly. Some of the rooms that I know that have done good print and play online escape rooms have found a really nice kind of revenue stream from that. And the option to bolt on, if someone comes and plays the physical room, so many people bolt on or offer exit games, board games, unlocked, or take home kind of pay for games, and being able to offer their own, having given themselves, I think what I know of most escape room owners and designers is there's very little time to sit and create something new. And if the priority is physical escape rooms, then why would you sit at home and create a whole online or print and play? But having been forced to do this, many of them have a catalogue of things to offer, and that's kind of exciting. And so many now say, actually, I might keep ticking some of these over. And
lots of people are sort of collaborating and selling each other. I've noticed as well, that's a nice thing as well.
It's great, and I hope that there will be some positives to come out of it. And I have certainly seen some of those. And even with the virtual escape rooms, I think it's even taught some companies lessons about games mastering. It's been interesting. I think the biggest variation in online avatar games has been how games masters handle the team, because they've got the camera strapped on and they have to interact far more. So normally if we played a game in our regular team, we might not speak to it'd be most likely we wouldn't speak to the games master for the entire game. They're part of our briefing, at which point I'm struggling not to look horribly bored, having heard a few now. And the kind of, that was fun, thanks so much, or maybe a little chat afterwards. But this is the first time really ever that we've had to really interact with the games master, find for ourselves ways to talk to them, instruct them clearly and concisely, and I'm really good at brevity.
I have to be honest with you. I think the idea of being your games master in an avatar-led room, knowing how competitive you are, is an absolutely terrifying prospect.
I'm so chilled in avatar rooms because it took a little while getting used to.
Well, go and get that key. No, over there. No, you're not fast enough.
So you were there then. You watched that, did you? No, I think I had to get over the mild frustration quite quickly. The interesting thing is you see the whole of a room. I don't do that either. And because there's always some deviation in our team, what we've got used to, and the reason more from fast, is we will just split up. We won't talk to each other unless we found something that we think is relevant to something that we're not working on ourselves. And in a virtual escape room, you see everything. You see every puzzle, which is part of my argument for why I might consider the avatar-led rooms part of my list, because I've seen more of those rooms, the totality of those rooms, than I have in the last 1,000, physical escape rooms that I've played. So it's been enjoyable for that reason, but it does mean that you are at the whim of the avatar in terms of how quick you are, how cool. And the only bit that I found difficult, frustrating, is the kind of playing dumb scenario of the games master, which I think is important but really hard to balance. There are occasions when it's very clear that as a team we have seen, we've analysed the components, we've seen what's going to be used together and how the puzzle's going to play out. And you'll look at the games master who says, so you wanted me to take this item and this item. We might have said something really clearly. Yes, take the the spoon and the pot of jam. And they'll be like, the spoon and the what? And you're like, pot of jam. They're like, this pot of jam. You're like, yeah, the only one in the room. And then they're like, what would you like me to do with it? Well, put it in the pot of jam. So you want me to take the lid off and put it in? You're like, oh gosh. And we've said it. We've even said out loud, we know that we have to take a spoon of jam out of the pot, and for every single element of either the physical manipulation or the transition through parts of the puzzle, they will check in. And I think that's important if you're aware that your team does not know what's about to happen and they're kind of feeling it out as they go. But if they know, it is frustrating then when they're like, we've got this solved, we know it, we just need to do the process now, to kind of halt them at every step. That's
it's sort of a necessity, isn't it, to that type of game? And also, obviously, if you guys are playing together and you know what's happening, then it's fine and dandy. Whereas a lot of the time, that reaffirming each step is also there to keep everybody else understanding what's actually happening.
Yeah. And for most teams, it will work well.
Can I just ask, as a side note, have you ever played a game which has a pot of actual jam in it?
Important question. Most important question will come out today. No.
So any budding designers who are listening,
I'm missing it,
and want to create
a fake pot of jam. Yes, fake pot of jam.
Okay, so you have had a pot.
If that helps.
Right.
Yeah, we've had real bread, a number of times. Lots of odd things in escape rooms, so perhaps not odd.
Any other food types?
Real alcohol, quite often. It's becoming more common because there's more and more brewery escape rooms opening. But back in the day, there weren't many. And we had
Lady Chastity's was the
of course, the bottle of wine.
In the UK, they give a free bottle of wine to everybody.
They do. I've still not drunk it. I think it's vinegar now.
Yeah, hopefully they're not. I mean, it was pretty much vinegar to begin with. Hopefully they're not listening. I our bottle though.
I mean, look, it
was a free bottle of wine. It had a cool label on it as well.
We kept it for I kept it. I say we, like anyone else cares about the detritus that I've kept from escape rooms.
And what's some of the most interesting or memorable or weird take homes you've had?
I have a display cabinet of crap that I've taken from escape rooms, but I think the bottles of alcohol, little diddy kind of bottles. One of the more interesting ones was a knife from the Chamber in Prague, and you could buy one of those, I don't know if they're a European thing, but they were kind of shaped as a fish, a little flick knife, pocket knife, that's kind of got the design of a fish, but this one has kind of letters etched into it, the Chamber. And so I saw this on sale and said, well, that how could you not buy an escape room knife? I mean, that came home immediately. But other than that, it's probably quite expected things. Coins and pins and rings and
kudos,
cups and mugs. Normally, the mug thing, I don't drink tea or coffee. It's an odd thing to collect. And normally they don't sell them.
Mugs make sense to me because I always think when it comes to... Yeah, well, exactly. That's it, right?
But no, most of the detritus is normal, wristbands and pens, but the knife is cool. And escape rooms about. And the things that I like to keep, though, are normally things that we got in the rooms. So there's one escape room in Europe somewhere where you get a pill pot, and they print the labels with each team member's name and the type of pills they need to take and things like this. So it's individualized. So it's those ones I like taking away and kind of keeping because it's
different. I suppose after 1,700 odd games, it must be rare to see something that is a bit different and weird.
No, you see, people always say this. The two questions that I get asked the most by non-escape room people are, don't you get bored of doing the same thing repeatedly? And to that, I normally try and use an analogy that they'll understand better, which is, I think the problem is that people assume that they are more akin to perhaps a mini golf or a zap zone, a laser quest, a quasar. I'm not sure what we call this anymore, where the experience is inherently identical with perhaps a slightly different setting each time. But once you've done it, you might not rush to do it again because you would be experiencing a kind of pretty much identical, very similar activity. And so I try and put it into their terms, which is, do you get bored of reading books and do you get bored of watching movies? And obviously the answer is no, because the genres, there are so many genres, and within that the breadth of possibilities is, I was going to say so wide, but really infinite, right? And that's a good way to explain to people what kind of activity this is. You know, like a computer game, like a movie, like a book or a narrative, you can create an experience based on anything. And we know that, we've seen that. I've played games that have a romance theme, escape room games. And so apart from the classic tropes, there are so many niches within that. And then I say the same with regard to the puzzles. The analogy I normally use, although I don't love it, is they say, once you've done a few, can't you be really quick at all of them because you've seen all the puzzles? And I say, well, you've done a maths sum before. Does that mean all maths sums, you can do them just quickly, or you automatically know the answer? No, you still have to process through them. Really, it's a kind of oversimplification of how escape room puzzles work. If you just change one small thing, if you interpret it differently, every puzzle, a small change, a small iteration makes it a new puzzle. And within that, you can then iterate it 50 times. So in every single room we play, there'll be puzzles almost every puzzle I've never seen before in that exact format. What makes us faster now is that we know primarily what the confines or the parameters in which escape rooms generally live. And so that we know that normally if we go in and we immediately do a sweep of the room and we find everything that we can that looks like it might be part of a puzzle, and we start to look at either the locks or the spaces or objects or shapes in the room, it's an analysis thing that makes us quick. But in terms of puzzles, yes, okay, there's a pig pen. Great, I know what a pig pen is. But even then, we don't like to, I don't want to call it cheating, we won't open the lock until we found all the pieces of the pig pen, even if I could write you out a pig pen now. And what I like, and I know that Mr. Middleton, you do that quite often, is that you'll change up a pig pen, so I couldn't write a pig pen because you'll make sure that whilst I understand the concept of a pig pen, if I wrote out the standard one, it wouldn't work. And it's the same with people using Morse and things like that. I might be able to read the Morse. The escape rooms have taught me to be able to walk my way through quite a lot of Morse. Until we find the translation, we won't move on. So
you actually know Morse? Can you actually do Morse?
I know enough that what I like most about Morse puzzles is that I know maybe 10 letters off the top of my head. But it's normally enough because Morse is normally used for numbers. I really enjoy that bit when you go, hang on, there's an E, there's another E, so that's got to be 3. So now I can remind myself what a T is. That's a 3-letter one beginning with T, so that's going to be 2. That reminds me what an O is. That one's going to be 1. So it's kind of, I add a puzzle to
I always think that when it comes to stuff like that, when you recognise something in a room, and this is, I'm talking as a player here, and I'd be interested to see your take on this as well. Actually, when you find something that you already know, people might think, oh, that would be disappointing, but it actually gives me a bit of a thrill. And if I can remember part of a code or remember how to do something, and it allows me to do something a little bit quicker, it just makes me feel smarter.
Absolutely. I know a lot of owners who would self-profess that they're not fantastic at escape rooms. Some of the escape room owners I know are not fabulous at escape rooms, and lots of the enthusiasts I know aren't. It's not the point. The point of playing escape rooms, shock horror, is not to be brilliant at them, it's to have fun. It's an entertainment industry. And what I say from a design perspective, a consultancy perspective, with that regard, is that if you want repeat business, you want people to go out happy and having had fun. And a large part of escape rooms is creating a balance of puzzles where you're trying to get each of the team members to see something first, or to interpret something first, or to be part of the process. So it's good. A great escape room will have, that variety of modalities so that everyone you know, I've seen teams go through and someone's kind of at the back, and then suddenly there'll be something they see that no one else does, and that's it, they're invested. And as we know, with escape rooms, the moment someone invests individually, they're in. So the moment they open their own lock or solve their own piece of the puzzle, you've caught them. And so a good escape room will get everyone on board and make everyone feel worthy. And feeling worthy, particularly in this day and age, is so important. We want to feel clever, and a good, well-designed escape room should make you feel clever. Not those ones that say we've got a 1% escape rate, and primarily that's because it's a guess the designer's mind, as opposed to here is a logical path to follow, and you just got to, you know, spot the breadcrumbs and piece it all together. They're enjoyable, they're social, they give you that team spirit that I think in this day and age we get less and less.
So tell us about some of your favourite games then.
I have no issue with being obvious. The game that I voted to get number one in the Turpicus, the game that's on the top of my list is The Dome, created by the wonderful Eric. He's a crazy brother. He is a wonderful, insane man, and only an insane man can come up with The Dome. There are no words for The Dome. So The Dome for us was a game made for a team squad. It's made for our crazy minds. And so it was just serendipitous. It was beautiful. It messed with my head. And I think the other obvious point is when you've played a large glut of games, we look for weird games now. You know, how many times have we escaped jail? Unless it's an incredible jail escape that every enthusiast around the corner is saying you've got to play this, and we normally will. It's hard to amaze me with that. So I realised there are factors personal to me that made me love it. But I also think that probably my favourite puzzle I've ever played, and in 1,800 games, so there are 20 games of puzzle, do some maths. We'll talk about how much I hate maths later. That's a lot of puzzles, right? And still I could say that probably my favourite puzzle is within The Dome. But it's without, and again, we won't spoil anything, much like many of my favourite games, but it's so different, so wacky. I love twists in games, or things, unexpected moments in games, and some of the puzzles in there are just beautiful. And by beautiful, I don't just mean aesthetically, I mean crafted, logically, how they've woven in the analytics throughout the whole game is stunning. And then almost on a complete flip, we went to Switzerland. We did a short trip in Switzerland. Quite short. I mean, Mark and I turned up on Friday. I was in a car from London to Switzerland. That wasn't joyful. And it was when France was having big strikes. And Sharan and Dave flew in at 4 a.m. on Saturday night. And then we got in a car, drove all the way around Switzerland, and returned on Sunday evening. It was you know, regular team squad.
How many games did you fit in?
About 25. Yeah.
I've seen one of your spreadsheets. You've shown them to me, and they are literally terrifying.
They're disgusting, aren't they? They are. Yeah. And I think we squeezed in some extras. Switzerland had, I think, at least 3 games got into our top 10. Now, at the time, we'd played 1,600 games. That's pretty impressive. Often for countries that I suggest to people, it's the kind of quantity over quality. In quantity, you know, it's the ratio, and we were really impressed. But one that sticks out that we didn't, because we went just after the Turpicas, that I think about often, if The Dome is the game that I think about the most often, Aunt Hilda's Trip Trap. Oh, it's beautifully within the confines of what it is. It's finesse, you know, it's attention to detail. The beats, they have hit those beats. I mean, at the time, I think Mark and Dave, we met Dave when he'd done 50 or 75 rooms, and he's now around 600. And Mark's 700, 800, something like that. And all of us, and we were well over 1,600 at this point. At one point in the transition, we all stood there and went, oh, wow. I mean, that doesn't happen often. I came out and when you come out and you go, that's in our top 3, you just know quality game. And a question that I get asked a lot is it puzzles or theming? And I think that was a really valid question a few years ago. And I remember a lot of people taking a flag in one or the other, and I'm starting to say, why on earth is it one or the other? My top 30 games now, maybe my top 20 games, are both. Why are we doing puzzles or theming? Why are we even asking this question? You can do both. For us, probably as a team, and for me, if there's all theming and no puzzles, then I'm not playing an escape room. I'm going on a cool interactive adventure in Harry Potter world, or secret cinema. And so from the escape room, puzzles over theming in that sense are probably more important, because I go to an escape room to play puzzles, and I've played lots of great, I think we've all played great rooms that have got very little theming. Even we like a good random room. There's a place in Island White that actually calls their room random room, because he said, I came up with 40 puzzles, they don't fit anything, so I've shoved them all in a room with very little theming, just get through the puzzles. And as puzzle aficionados, that's great fun sometimes. But the best rooms now have got great puzzles and great theming, and why do we need to? I see no reason anymore to pick one over the other. And some of the games that I saw fell off the Turbic list. They came very high because they were one of the first games that had incredible theming, interactive elements, experiences, and environments that we'd never seen before. But their puzzles were mediocre, and at the time, because we'd never seen that, they kind of jumped to the top of everyone's list, and then they kind of peeled back off. And I think the reason is that the puzzles didn't stand up to theming, and now the very best games I see kind of apply them both.
The music, and taking the music analogy again there, it's like you said, it's sometimes it's not even, it's basically just whatever sings to your heart, and you can define parts of it, but sometimes it's just the way those things sort of work together, and the way it sounds to you, and the way it makes you feel in the moment. Like there are definitely rules and structures and things that you can follow to make something that will generally work.
It's back to that taste is subjective. Even now I see enthusiasts arguing, saying that wasn't good, that was good, and I sit there going, neither of those are answers. The answer is, I loved that, I didn't love that. If someone really loves rock and someone really loves opera, neither of those musical genres are bad or good. We say, I enjoy something different, and I enjoy something different. And I'm still really confused. I know it's a burgeoning industry and people are forgetting these analogies with the real world, but there is not a yes or no answer. A game that is endured by someone that's played a lot of films is most likely to be adored by more, because we've seen the gamut and we know that this is a high rated game. And so sometimes listening to enthusiast taste can be useful for that reason. We have seen such a large gamut, have such a wide range, that we know that this is well crafted. But that doesn't mean that if that's not your genre, that you might not enjoy it as much as I did. I don't love horror games. I am very bad at being scared. And so there are games we go into, the team doesn't really, Sharan doesn't get scared by anything, but we don't enjoy them that much. And so when I come out, the feeling of being excited, I assume that that's what people experience when they're scared and they enjoy it. It must feel riveting, but for me, I just feel on edge and uncomfortable the whole time. And so I respect that that's just not my thing, but I've played horror rooms and I can see why people would say that was incredible, and it's just not for me. And so I plead with enthusiasts to stop saying this is bad or this is, there are some games that are inherently bad, right? Because they fail on the design points, they're dangerous, they're poorly thought out, they're illogical, they're cynical, fine. But when it comes to the best games or good games, tell us what you liked and what you didn't like and why, and then help us align our thoughts. Oh, this person likes similar things to me, I'll probably enjoy their games. This team likes lots of horror games and more interaction, and so I probably won't like what they like. But it's not that they've got bad taste, and it's subjective. Taste is subjective.
We've talked about your favorite rooms. Do you have, without obviously naming and shaming, do you have any rooms which just notorious have been awful, have gone down in the history books for being absolutely terrible experiences?
Yes. Probably the ones that really stick out are the dangerous ones. As long as...
Are there any super dangerous moments that you've had?
There was this
where my fingers got chopped off. That was fun.
Oh, nice. There was one room that was just, from a health perspective, it made me want to call the council and get it shut down. So we went into this room, and little did we discover that they kind of bolted the front door with bits of, I don't know what you call it, when you get a big plank of wood and put it across kind of...
like you're stopping the zombies coming in.
Yeah, and they put a number. So there was no emergency exit. So they're basically no emergency exit. So you go in and they put lots of planks across the front door so that if you said, let me out now, someone has to come around from the GM space and then take all these planks away and unlock it. Not safe. It was a jail cell room, and in the first room you have to, and this is not a surprise for jail room, find something down the toilet. The toilet is not a functional toilet, but it has got water in it. They filled it with water, and it's really, the water looks nasty. It doesn't look good. Sharan managed, we just played it as a 2, Sharan managed to find, hidden behind a tile with no signposting, some rubber gloves. Thank God. put her hand in, fished out a key, something, onwards. What we discovered afterwards was that they had, to make this toilet dirty, had gone and dug up soil, genuine soil from outside, and put it down the toilet. Now, soil's got lots of tetanus in it, and it's got bugs. So there were dead bugs floating on the top of the water in this toilet. It hadn't been changed for months. There are so many health risks associated with that. It's really worrisome. And when we talked to him about that, he laughed and he said, 60% of people, something like that, don't find the glove, so they just put their hands in. This room had metal edges everywhere, and both of us had cut our hands. So you have cut hands, a lot of people putting their hand into dirty soil, stagnant water for months with dead bugs and earth in it is literally a health risk. And then there were other issues. The other big issue they did is they had air horns, and to scare their players, even though this is a jail cell, no one really knew why, they would wait till you walked past and they had space in the walls, and they had air horn right when you went past. And so they burst my eardrum. So, I mean, this far, I'm sure an air horn has a warning on it, and they would wait for you. And I had to shout out, "Don't stop the air horn, please stop the air horns." And they didn't listen, and not listening when a player's in distress is an issue as well. We finally left. I was mildly enraged by that room.
Okay.
It literally unsafe.
So we're gonna finish up now. We're gonna go for our last question, and kind of like the future. So if someone's going to try and woo you into doing their game, to travel to the far corners of the earth, what is the theme or the thing that you would love to see in an escape room game that you have not seen yet? Aspirationally, what is it? What do you want people to make? What would you like to see? What's not been done? What's not been done?
Oh, if I give you that list, I won't be able to consult for anyone anymore. If something's done brilliantly, I don't think it matters what the genre is. I haven't yet ventured, so we were supposed to be flying out to the States in September for a month-long tour of the entire thing with the team. And unsurprisingly, we're going to postpone that. So there are games that we haven't played that I've heard of, like Lab Rats, which tickle my interest particularly because, as I say, when you've played so many games, you want to do new things. So we, on trips, will often look out for weird and wonderful games, even if we don't expect them to be the absolute best. A new theme is exciting. On our last trip, we looked for games that, in a science museum, or something called Greenhouse, or something based on train management, things that are off the wall. As long as the puzzles are reasonable, it's exciting to not do the same thing or not see the same story. But if you are going to do the same story, you're going to do the same jailbreak, there's nothing that stops you making a bit different. There's nothing that stops you setting expectations with a good jailbreak that all the beginners will like, but then twisting it and adding some excitement to it to not only surprise all those beginners that wanted a classic jailbreak and initially got that, and then really playing with people's expectations and heads and minds afterwards.
It's taken a while for us, because I suppose in order to be able to play with people's expectations, they have to have expectations first. It's taken a while for us to get to that point with escape rooms where there are these conventions and things that we kind of expect to happen each time that you can then twist.
I think even when you make a jail escape, though, even a beginner who's never played a game will expect to be escaping a jail, and that's great. But I think if you escape the jail into something completely unexpected, it's not just, I've escaped the jail and I'm out. I've escaped the jail. Oh my God, what's happened now? Oh, this is why I was in jail. I think that's fascinating. It's how you interpret the genres, I think, which is the most important. How you interweave the puzzles into the experience, how you excite the team, how you subvert set their expectations, meet them, and then subvert them. I think that's more fun than going, no one's made an escape room about being an ant in a garden yet. Well, they haven't. Cool. But that's going to be great if it's made really well. I'm up for it. I love it.
Let's make it.
I think, let's do it. I think you can make that brilliantly, but equally you can make it awful. So there are lots of genres like that. I could say, well, no one's done that yet. And
you would like to fund our ant in an escape room, and in a garden escape room, then please get in touch with us.
Yes, we're on this. We can make a great room, but it's like anything. No one's made an escape room about laundry yet, and probably if you're off the wall enough, you could make a good one. And if you're not, you can make it really dull. So there's a million a million specifics that haven't been made yet. And it's all about, I think, the creative mind as to whether you take this play narrative and twist it up and add all those bows and make it pretty and the love fundamentally fun. Make it fun. Just want fun. That's what we do it
as well. Like, I think you can tell, can't you? Like, some of my favorite games I've played, I'm like, this isn't the best made game, but I can just feel the love,
the passion,
and that kind of adds that adds some magic, doesn't it?
It does. You know, if it's got lots of good ingredients that everyone enjoy, we'll all enjoy it. And but fun, love, passion, non-cynical, well balanced, you know, perfect flow, nice attention to. We're not asking for much, you know. Why haven't you all made these games for me? It's and safety would be cool. Although there were always accidents. Did I ever tell you about? I think you do know about the time that Mark cut his head open in an escape room because he's too tall. So there was an escape room with a slide, and he slid down. But he sat up too much because he's quite tall and he's a rugby player, just quite broad. And so he started going too fast. So he kind of sat up, I think, to stop himself and sliced open his head. And the company knew that we were training for training.
You're always training.
Yeah, team, we have to train. By that, I mean, can we just play some escape rooms? So we were training for the Red Bull thing. And so they said, is he okay? And it wasn't an awful cut, but it was cuts in the head bleed. And so without entering the room to stop our time, Mark was on his hands and knees solving a puzzle with footprints, kind of animal footprints or something, kind of counting them. The other two guys, Sharan and David, were off doing puzzles as we normally are. We just split up. And I was above Mark, like moving the hair out the way, checking the cart, segmenting stitches, kind of communicating with the GM that it didn't. And then they said, do you want a first aid kit? And I said, oh, yes, please. And instead of opening the room, and I get why this isn't a complaint or a criticism, but it was funny. Instead of entering the room to keep immersion up, they got the contents of the first aid kit and tipped it down the slide. And then we had this like extra dexterity game of like bandage, plasters, antiseptic wipes, like flying off, trying not to hit us, dodging all this stuff. And then Mark continued solving this puzzle as I kind of wiped out the cart and cleaned up his head and kind of classic escape room stuff. I'm sure everyone's done that in escape room.
Everybody's bandaged up at an injured head in escape.
I played the Red Bull thing with a fractured wrist. I mean, let's get over ourselves. But yeah. Oh, it was lovely to see you.
Yes,
let's
it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure chatting. And yes, thank you.
And it's only been, for everyone watching the edited version, 7 hours. So I think we've kept that quite brief. Impressive.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for answering my question, Sarah. Thank you to everybody watching. We hope you gained some insight and enjoyed this chat.
This little brief catch up. How lovely.
Goodbye.
Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Lisa. And we're from RoomEscapeArtist.com, the hosts of Recon, the Reality Escape Convention.
This was one of 15 talks that we put on at Recon Global this year, a digital convention for the escape room and immersive gaming industries, for players and for owners and everyone in between. They gathered on August 23rd and 24th of 2020.
We're releasing all 15 of these talks about once a week over the coming months so that they'll be accessible to you. To find them, you subscribe here to the Room Escape Artist YouTube channel. And if you're interested in more information about Recon, go to realityescapecon.com and subscribe to the newsletter.
We put on Recon completely for free because we didn't want there to be financial barriers. We are, however, supported by our Patreons, and so we're thankful to those who are already supporting us. And if you have the ability to support us right now, and you want to, and you like what we're doing, we would really appreciate it. People who back us get early access to these videos along with a whole bunch of other perks.
That is the Room Escape Artist Patreon page. And if you're enjoying these videos and this industry, please support the creators in the space. Play their games in person or virtually. They're doing so many innovative things right now, and we hope that you'll enjoy those.
Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next video.